Hi there, this is Jason Eagle, Natural Health Authority from strategichealing.us. Today we're going to talk about melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that your body produces, your brain produces at nighttime when you sleep. And then when the sun comes out, it gets converted into serotonin. Serotonin is serotonin, dopamine. Those are those happy hormones. And oftentimes when people are on what's called SSRI, serotonin reuptake, those anti-anxiety medications, there's a bunch of different ones. What that's doing is it's helping to repair low serotonin. Well, if you are not producing enough melatonin, and I'll get into why you don't sleep well. Why is the problems with sleep? Now, the other thing about melatonin is it's not just about sleep. And we'll also talk about what's a good sleep cycle, what it does to the brain. But melatonin is a extraordinary antioxidant. What's called an antioxidant is what's called a free radical scavenger. Free radicals are a singlet of oxygen. There's other free radicals too, and in particular called AGEs, advanced glycation agents, and other types of things that are damaging to the body. But where does a singlet of oxygen, where does oxidative stress come from? Rust. Okay, so metal and other types of things, they oxidate and then they rust. When copper is unoxidized, it's beautiful and shiny. Silver is beautiful and shiny, but then as it starts to oxidize, it starts to get, copper gets that green, silver gets kind of like a darker type of color, unpolished. That's oxygen that is taking the molecule and changing it. Now, we have a bunch of different things that are inside our body that oxidize too. All of our cells are like, think about every single cell in your body, of which you are made of all these cells, are just a bunch of mini-me's. And every cell has to do exactly what you do, which is it has to breathe. So it has to take in oxygen. It has to release carbon dioxide. No, there's an oxygen in both of those. And oxide, 3. So we'll talk a little bit about where that singlet of oxygen, and singlets of oxygen, which is a single oxygen atom, is like the Tasmanian devil. It runs all over and bounces into a bunch of things, or it's kind of like, think about like if you have a room full of mouse traps and you throw a ping pong into it. That ping pong is going to set off one, but then that other one is going to flip and set off. And then next thing you know, like dominoes, the whole thing goes, meaning they've all exploded. Okay. So going back to the cell, all of our cells are just like that. It has to eat, it has to breathe, it has to poop, and it has to die, and it has to regenerate, and then it has to be born. It has to go through all of these different processes. Well, each one of these processes, especially its pooping, right? But when you have mitosis, when a cell is being formed, when a cell is being changed. So the good part of a cell and the bad part of cell produces all of these different energies. And all of these energies create enough energy to break apart a oxygen off of all of the cells, right? And forming a singlet of oxygen, one atom. Well, in the world, it's very rare. In fact, it doesn't like it. An oxygen does not like being alone. So it will always, so oxygen as we breathe is O2, right? You do not find a singlet of oxygen and it becomes paired, right? So it's hungry and it wants to find something. It'll find a carbon, it'll find a hydrogen, it'll find something, right? So a singlet oxygen, like I said, it's like the Tasmanian devil, but what it's doing is it's looking for a partner to dance with. And it goes out on the dance floor and it's alone, and it just starts grabbing a partner and says, you're my partner now. And then it steals away from the one that already has a partner. So now you have another one that is alone, right? So free radicals, that's what's called a free radical. Okay, it's radical and it's free. And so it's able to go and steal and damage and cause chaos and all this other stuff because it's unstable. So our body's processes are producing these all the time. We produce more when we have damage, and that's damage from eating the bad foods. It's damage from facing too many toxins. It's damage from the sun. Free radical damage gets a lot from gamma X-ray radiation, being around radiation, being around lights, being around electromagnetic frequencies, the cell phones, microwaves, these other types of fluorescent lights. Pilots are the worst because the higher that they get up into the atmosphere, the thinner the atmosphere, and so more of these gamma X-ray radiation there is bombarding their cells, creating more damage, right? Stewardesses are also highly affected by this. So there's a number of things that we can do to fix this. But there's all kinds of free radical scavengers, meaning it grabs onto those free radicals and binds them and gives them a partner rather than stealing a partner from yourself. And then it's what's called, it quenches free radicals. Basically, it gives, like I said, gives it a partner, and now it's no longer this crazed animal that's breaking apart everything, and now it's calm because it's happy, it's satisfied, right? There are certain different types of, and that's what's known as an antioxidant, right? So there's lots of antioxidants. Oils in itself are an antioxidant. So that's why fish oil has been kind of one of the rages. DHA, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil. Oils are a very, very powerful antioxidant, free radical scavenger. But there's a whole bunch of other ones, curcumin, all these other different types of things. But there's very few that are actually able to do what's called cross the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is this place where it's a barrier, and there's only certain things that are able to get in there. So even though the oils, the essential fatty acids, can rebuild the brain, very little bit of it is actually able to cross the blood-brain barrier and do as good a job as it does elsewhere in the body. And so melatonin is one of these things that's able to cross the blood-brain barrier and very effectively reduce. And so we're also talking about aging, the aging process. So what is aging? I'm just getting old. It's the years. No. Aging is these processes of these chemical, electromagnetic, different living processes that as it's going through, it's like the candle burning down the wax, right? Eventually the candle has burned all the wax and all the wax is gone. It's using up resources. Well, the resources are just coming from its natural processes of aging. But if aging is harder on you, because you don't have as much repair. You're not repairing as much. And the number one repair thing that we can do is sleep. A good night's sleep is repairing and anti-aging. Also for the brain, so a lot of bad sleep, insomnia, or people in particular that have taken drugs that are sleeping aids, that what they do is they lock you into a deep sleep mode. And then you don't come up to the REM stage sleep, which is what stands for rapid eye movement. But that's where we dream, and that's where we produce the melatonin. So a good night's sleep is you lay down and you don't get up until it's time to get up in the morning, and then you go pee or you go poop or whatever, but you don't have to get up in the middle of the night, right? You may toss and turn, have, those camera apps to watch, and you may see that you toss and turn, but that's also part of the normal process. A good night's sleep has to do with the brain waves. And we have these different waves of the brain: alpha, beta, theta, gamma, or alpha, beta, theta, and zeta waves. Okay. So during our daily process, our thinking process, our alive process, this wave is going, this wave is going like this wave is very low. And so they're all kind of in different, basically if you were to kind of see what the hard drive is doing on your computer, right? However, and when we're sleeping, that also happens is we have different ranges in terms of the different parts of the brain, which is representative of different frequencies of your brain's humming. Different frequencies of your brain, because your brain is an electromagnetic generator frequency. And so what happens is we'll fall asleep, right? In a healthy sleep cycle, we will go into a deep sleep. And in a deep sleep, we get almost like sleep paralysis. Now, even in the dream stage, which is Sometimes we can get a sleep paralysis where everything shuts down, everything relaxes. However, there's a couple other muscles that do work, which is the tongue, the jaw, and the eye muscles. So, but a deep sleep is where there's no dreaming happening. And the alpha, beta, theta waves are still kind of unorganized, right? They're doing their own thing. Then we come up to like a mid-range, and then we come up to REM stage sleep, which is kind of like a scuba diver. Scuba diver may go all the way down, then come up to the mid-range, and then climb up close to the surface, or like a whale does. Comes up close to the surface, hangs out there for a while, and then comes up for a breath, and then goes back down. So REM stage sleep is actually close to the waking phase. That's where we do a lot of our dreaming, or that's where we do the dreaming, and that's where we produce the melatonin. And in a good, healthy night's sleep, you do that many times. And you'll wake up, and so when we wake up from that REM stage sleep, we'll then move around. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're awake. It's our body is kind of close to that. It moves around, and then it goes back down into that deep sleep phase. And multiple cycles happen. Now, what happens at that REM stage sleep is they've monitored the brain waves. And what happens is all of those different waves, they all harmonize. They're like dolphins swimming together. They actually are unified and coherent together. And so, but what this means is what the brain is doing, and the brain is the body. The brain is healing itself. And that's a big part of what the dreams do, is, in fact, we're reorganizing different memories and different parts of our day. And it's kind of like the brain goes on a defrag, right? So the brain produces melatonin, and melatonin is its own antioxidant that then, like I said, during the daytime when light hits your eye, then it gets converted into serotonin. Now, this light thing is very, very important. Who are the most damaged in terms of melatonin? Who needs melatonin the most? Let me kind of read from this so I can remember, okay? It's very important for people who've been chronically exposed to, now this is from Dr. Bob Marshall. I'm a quantum reflex analysis practitioner, and QRA and Premier Research Labs was developed by Dr. Bob Marshall, and then a number of other colleagues and chemists and other things that have worked with him. But really, this is his baby. And we were so early, me being a practitioner for, it's like 14 years now, we were so early knowing about so many things that now you're finding out from a different bunch of practitioners. Gary Brecka is a big one that you see a lot about, and you're hearing a lot about NAD and NMM and all these other different types of things. Dr. Marshall was way ahead of this. Comes from so many years ago, was way ahead of this in terms of preparing us as QRA practitioners and Premier Research Labs in order to create these formulas, but also for them to be, number one, all of the formulas from Premier Research Labs are what's called excipient-free. Excipients are, so he was the very first one that I know of that told me anything about talcum powder causing ovarian and breast cancer, and he formulated his high-speed encapsulators that everyone else uses talcum powder or cornstarch, but talcum powder in particular, to lubricate the gears. He said, there's no way I'm putting that in my machines. I'll break them. We're going to have to fix them and reformulate them because that will create a dust that will then get into the capsules. And talcum powder is used in all of the different manufacturing places, but he was way ahead of the game in terms of what's good, what's bad, what should we do, what are we striving for, what are we trying to do. And also, like I said, is really also energetically being able to test people and also look at the research and see that people that are exposed to electromagnetic frequencies and people, so now you're seeing a bunch of people wearing these blue blockers or the red light glasses. Why? They are protecting their eyes from this damaging wavelength of light that is destroying the brain and crippling the body's ability to utilize and produce melatonin and serotonin. It's messing up the brain, okay? So let me go back to this, because this is very, very interesting. Very important for people who've been chronically exposed to toxic electromagnetic fields. This is the big one, such as sleeping with the TV on or sleeping near a clock radio. So many people have that clock radio right by their head, or their phone charging or something like that is plugged in right next to the bed. High EMF fields to the high EMF electromagnetic fields stress to the head fields. So we have head fields, which is, what is a field? It's electromagnetic fields. And so if you were to see outside of your brain, the invisible electromagnetic fields, they look like wheels within wheels that are coming out of our head and in our head, right? And those are also, if you look at the wall or if you look at the clock radio, that's also creating electromagnetic fields. And when they interfere with each other, these more powerful ones will start to mess up your head fields and literally start to cause more of that damage of free radical damage, causing more of these little Tasmanian devils to go all over the place, damaging your brain, and your brain is damaging the rest of your whole body, right? Okay, heavy-duty long-term support for anti-aging, those who are exposed daily to powerful, unprotected electromagnetic fields, such as microwaves, cell phones, high-voltage lines. If you happen to live pretty close to a high-voltage line or a cell phone tower, it's going to be worse for you, right? So also, this is also considered as an Alzheimer's dementia brain treatment, right? Because a lot of that damage is all of this other type of damage that's happening in the brain. So melatonin is not just used just to help you fall asleep. Melatonin is, like I said, it's used to repair the damage. That's why our body produces the melatonin, because it's creating its own medicine to heal the body, not just the brain, but the whole body. And also, melatonin is related to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, relax, and heal, which is not just happening at nighttime. We also need to be able to switch into, so sympathetic is the fight or flight, and when you're stuck in fight or flight, which is necessary for dangerous times, the healing process stops. The healing process shuts off. Whereas the only time that the healing process happens is when your body is in parasympathetic, which is related to these different hormones, and it produces those hormones. The parasympathetic nervous system is also stimulated by these hormones, right? So taking these healthy hormones to do a bunch of different stuff. Again, people are really looking at anti-aging, but it's also, like I said, it makes you feel better. When you feel well rested, when you feel like you have enough serotonin, it's easier for you to be happy. It's easier for you to feel satisfied. It's easier for you to feel accomplished or want to accomplish, for you to feel how you want to feel, how anybody wants to feel in their life. There's lots of damage that comes from drugs. There's lots of damage that comes from bad eating and all kinds of other stuff. Not to mention, like I said, all of the exposure to toxic electromagnetic fields. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't think about, right? Because it's invisible. It's invisible. You don't see it. You don't hear it. You don't smell it. You don't taste it, but it's there. And as I said, there's some people that are in higher. So if I were to talk to an airline pilot, if I would talk to a stewardess, I would say, what's a couple things that you should be doing to quench this damage that happens every time you go up in the air, if you fly, or guys that work in a company that they have to fly a lot, is melatonin. So when you go to your hotel or where you're going to be, take your melatonin, right? And then the other thing is green tea. Green tea also protects the brain and the body from free radical damage, in particular, the gamma X-ray radiation. It protects the cell. It's almost kind of like a force field, so that the gamma X-ray just kind of bounces off of you and it doesn't penetrate and damage the cell. Same thing that melatonin does. Okay, so the melatonin, how much should you take? Well, the recommended daily amount is different for male or female. Females can take more, actually, the older the female. But we're looking at anywhere between 8 and 12 milligrams for a male. And you need to take this at nighttime. Don't take it during the daytime, because it will make you feel sleepy. This can also, let me go back to, and then females are anywhere between 8 and 16 or even 20. Now, that's also to be said, males and females can take a lot more. I know Dr. Lodi, who is famous for helping people not only anti-cancer, but parasitical. He's a big guy on ivermectin and fenbendazole, drlodi.com. He takes something like, 128 milligrams a day, right? Is it toxic? Is it? No, right. You can take large doses. But the recommended dose is for you to sleep, right? And take it at nighttime but it then helps you throughout the whole day. It doesn't just disappear. So, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so taking it at nighttime is the really the only time that you should be taking it. I like to put a little bit of the dropper, so this is, give it a good shake. Put a little bit of it under your tongue. Well, I do 2 dropperfuls, which is 2 dropperfuls is about 16 milligrams. Because 1 dropperful of this is, like I said, the probiotically generated live source is 8 milligrams. So do about 16 milligrams. Sometimes I can do more. Now, if you want to fall asleep at a certain time, I recommend that you take this about an hour before you actually are going to fall asleep, because especially people have some trouble where they're tossing and turning, or they like to read or whatever. The other thing is get the lights out. Take the lights out of your bedroom. Do not have a TV in your bedroom that's running all night. If you have a night light, or a reading light, or lights that are close to your bed, or in particular in your whole bedroom, get rid of the LED lights. Get rid of the fluorescent. You can hear it's raining, and go back to the original incandescent. The incandescent light bulbs are a frequency that's an actual fire. And what it does is it actually heals the eyes, because the light that goes in our eyes is what stimulates the production of these hormones, in particular melatonin, serotonin, dopamine, all this other stuff. But if the wavelength is this blue light, and in particular there's also a audible frequency that comes off of LED lights. I don't know if you ever heard it. It's like some people say they can't stand it. So get those out of the bedroom. Also, make the bedroom as dark as possible, meaning blackout curtains, these other type of things. You want to sleep in a completely... Now, sometimes there's people where you just can't get rid of all those lights, and so wearing like one of those eye masks to help to block out light. The darker the bedroom, the better for your brain's repair and the production of the melatonin. Because you also want to produce, and other people have said, well, if I take this stuff, is it going to make it so I don't produce my own melatonin? No, it doesn't do that, right? So it's not like you can become addicted. It's not like you're going to turn your own melatonin production off. So you don't have to worry about that. And as I said, it's not really, my big thing is it's not necessarily really about the sleep. It's about all of the other neuroprotective aspects and anti-aging qualities, free radical scavenging, not just in the brain, but throughout the whole body, that the melatonin use actually is really, really good for. And it's something that a person can use every day for the rest of their life. And as I said, certain people that are exposed. So in other people, like if you work in a factory where you're exposed to machinery that has lots of electromagnetic fields. What's an electromagnetic? Just a big engine. A big engine or a big machine that runs on electricity. Guys that work in plants that have the robots running. Guys that work in CNC machine, places. You work at a desk with lots of computers around you. If you work in an office, you work in a bank, you work in all these things. You are exposed to a lot of these things. And so you should be taking this as well for you to age well and also protect your brain from that really bad monster of dementia, Alzheimer's. Because when it's bad, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy, right? So if you want to find this, and you can go to my shop, strategichealing.us, and there's the shop, and then you can just scroll or actually search for melatonin. You can pay for it and give me your address, and I can ship it to you wherever you're at in the country, in the world, and we can get you going on this. I don't use it every day, and I forget. I wish I would take it more often, but I do take it more often than I ever did before. And as I said, it's my goal to take it every day, whether I want to sleep good or not, because it's for more than sleep. So until next time, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.